Class is in session. We are hitting the books. It is the premiere of the Pub Sports Radio Hitting the Books football show. This is going to be your first look at the football card each and every week throughout the football season right here on Pub Sports Radio. We are going to be here Mondays, 1 p.m. Eastern, 10 a.m. Pacific throughout the football season. And man, this is that first week where there is a full slate of football. Now, granted, it's just college football this week. Wait till next week. We get the NFL thrown into the mix as well. But it is a fun time of year, exciting, lots of good opportunities early in the football season. And we're certainly going to be talking about a lot of the games coming up this week in college football. Very happy to have as my colleagues and co-hosts here on this show throughout the year. Conor Mac, as always, you know him well. We've been working together for months, going on a year, I think now, on various shows. But we also want to welcome in a brand new face, brand new addition here to Pub Sports Radio, and he will be with us throughout the season on this show, hitting the books. Grant Arnold, he played pro and college hockey back in the day, but he put the skates away and said, I'm cracking the books, and I'm going to try to beat the books in the sports betting world. And that's what he's doing now, and he'll be joining us throughout the year every single Monday on this show, and we are happy to have Grant joining us. Conor Mac, we'll start with you. Just overall thoughts, excitement level for college football and this card upcoming this week.
Yeah, I'm excited for college football. Baseball's been really good to me the last month, but the last few days, which we'll have a show here in a few hours.
Oh, yeah.
Which I will probably soak up all how shitty I was yesterday. But yeah, I'm happy football's back. I thought last year was good. The year we had, even with all the COVID. I think we're going to deal with it a little bit this year. Not as bad last year, but yeah, I'm excited. I'm stoked. I'm glad to be on here with you, with Grant. We're going to have Ragu and those guys on the weekend, so it should be a good team. I'm ready to roll. Let's rock it.
All right, and we welcome in Grant here for the first time. Apologize for Grant's video and audio. He's traveling on the road. You know what that damn hotel Wi-Fi, it's like. It's a bitch. It's a fucking nightmare, but it is what it is. We'll make the best of it, but we're happy to have Grant with us. Grant, welcome in to Hitting the Books, and glad to have you with us.
Yeah, man, it's a pleasure to be here, fellas. I've kind of gotten to know Ian, over the last few months, and I've been watching Conor Mac's videos, Pub Sports, just as a fan, really. Damn, I can't wait to get on the gridiron, man. Throw the pigskin around, see the college kids, see that energy. That's what I'm really excited for this season, because we missed so much of that last year. And at the same time, man, I'm really excited to get in football for me personally, as I'm stepping into this world and really taking it to the next level. So really excited to learn from these guys. And also just the one thing I've learned throughout this is, man, you can learn from everyone. So people in the comments, whatever, anyone, always good to have more info. That's what I've learned. More info is better for everyone. So happy to be here, man, and let's fucking kill it.
Absolutely. It sounds like a plan to me. No doubt about that. Welcome in everybody in the chat. 33 live viewers and counting already. Hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, share the video, get the word out about this show Mondays, 1 p.m. Eastern, 10 a.m. Pacific with Hitting the Books. Before we get into the game-by-game breakdown, Thursday's card first and then Friday. Grant, I'll ask you one question. You played pro hockey, played college hockey. The college, of course, comes into mind when you're talking college football. Denver.
Okay, right on.
Yep. Denver Pioneers. So I wanted to ask you, what, in your opinion, because this is maybe not the easiest question to answer, but because there could be various ways to answer it, what can you use as a college and pro hockey player, athlete in the past, to help you profit sports betting wise? That's a great question. What would your answer be to that?
Yeah, I mean, I love being able to bet on college sports just because I played it, and I played a little bit of pro, but it was in the minors, so I can relate to that to some level. But the pro or the college, I can really relate to these kids' energy and emotion coming into this game. There's a couple games on the slate we'll talk about today that it's going to be near a packed house or close to in some of these games. And as an 18, 19, 20, 21-year-old kid, man, it's hard. You get so emotional and so energized that it can be a huge negative for you. and it can be a huge positive as well. So a lot of that comes down to that coaching staff and culture. Like, so when you're coming in as a freshman, like, you want to come into a culture that is established. You have good seniors, you have good juniors that are leaders in the locker room and take you under the wing. If you don't have that, man, you're in for a hell of a fucking spot for your first college game, no matter what sport it is. I played in many big games in my career, and I'll never forget my first college hockey game. My hands were shaking a little bit. I mean, I'd won 2 national championships at this time. I had done a lot of things in my career, but I was so fucking nervous for that game. So I would think, like, just as these are kids, right? And this is the first week, and they're playing in front of a lot of fucking people, ESPN games, CBS games. So nerves can be a factor, especially week 1.
That's a good point, especially for, those first years, those underclassmen. When you're talking the freshmen and the sophomores, maybe the juniors and seniors, they can handle it a bit more. But definitely the younger players, there's no doubt they might have some difficulty, just settling in and getting comfortable in that first game. Let's get to it. Let's get down to business. This is the part everybody's been waiting for. We're going to go game by game through every weekday college football game. That's going to be the format on this show. Moving forward, of course, when NFL starts, we'll include the Thursday night NFL game as well in the rotation. And then after the Thursday and Friday games, what we'll do is we'll give you an early look at Saturday. Now, we're not going to go through every game on the card. That's what the Saturday show is going to be for, Saturday morning. 4th and Gold, by the way, is going to be the name of that show, Saturday mornings. But we will give you an early look. If there's a couple of games from Saturday that are standing out to me, to Connor, to Grant early in the week, on a Monday, we'll mention them. I think I kind of like this game on Saturday as of right now. So that's what we'll do at the end of the show. Personally, I'm not giving out a best bet on this show on Mondays moving forward, just because, it's days before all these games start, but we will definitely give you where we're leaning, what we've maybe already bet, and we'll still give you that game by game thorough opinion and analysis of each game. So with that in mind, guys, let's rock, let's roll, let's get this shit going. Let's kick this thing off. We've got Temple taking on Rutgers on Thursday night. It will be the first game to kick off. This game starts 6:30 p.m. Eastern, 3:30 p.m. Pacific on Thursday. We've got Rutgers currently a 14-point home favorite, so basically a 2-touchdown home favorite in this game. 51.5 the total in this game. Let's start on the Temple side of things. To me, it's definitely a program that looks like it's been on its way down and could continue to be on its way down this year. Rod Carey, the head coach of this Temple team, I never liked the hire, to be honest with you, from day one. I always thought this guy as a coach was nothing to write home about. Northern Illinois, they'd always lose in the bowl game. That never impressed me. His offenses were very, very putrid, anemic. They weren't very creative. It was run the football, dink and dunk passing. I didn't see a lot of great offensive creativity. And here with this Temple program, I think it's safe to say the program's actually gone down in the years that Rod Carey's been here after Matt Rule left. So you look at this team, they have a new quarterback, Georgia transfer, DeJuan Mathis, going to take over at the quarterback position. In terms of the returning production numbers for Temple, it's a team that struggled last year. So when you look at returning production numbers, you're always in that situation where you're wondering, well, if you've got a bunch of returning starters from a team that was ass, a team that was brutal last year, is that really going to be a good thing for you moving into the new season? But, from a returning production standpoint here for the Temple Owls, when you look at it for them, 107th in terms of returning production. That's their production ranking in terms of experience. So not only is this not probably going to be a great team, defensively, you look at some of those numbers last year for this Temple team, just shredded. I mean, giving up 31 to Navy, 37 to South Florida, who wasn't really all that good last year. Of course, the potent offenses, Memphis, SMU, Central Florida, they all got to 38 or more points against this Temple defense. And I really don't see this team improving a whole lot on the defensive side of the football coming into the year. They only have 7 starters back on that side of the football. Their defensive rating against the run, against the pass, to me, it struggled in both areas last year. Definitely is a worry to me coming into the year when you look at it. On the offensive side of the football, they look like they're going to be a transition team this year in terms of what to expect. New quarterback. They have one returning starter at receiver. The offensive line, They do have a couple of starters on the left side there. The right side's a little bit more inexperienced coming into the year. Defense, like I said, they do have a decent amount. The secondary actually could be solid because they've got 4 starters back there, but it was a defense that got shredded last year, and I think they're going to be in tough this year. When you transition that to Rutgers, could you make an argument, guys, that maybe one of the best coaching jobs last year was Greg Schiano here at Rutgers? What he did was outstanding. This has been a bottom feeder. They're basically 40-point dogs just 2 years ago in Big Ten play, 35, 40-point underdogs. And last year, they're competing in every game for the most part, winning some games as well, finding ways. Noah Vidral is back, the starting quarterback here for Rutgers. I think he's going to be able to progress and get better. The defense still work in progress, but you were a Civ defense 2 years ago. You at least closed the gap and became a decent defensive football team last year. And again, for Schiano in one season to turn Rutgers from basically being a joke to at least a competitive, respectable, outfit last year, I give him a lot of credit for that. And I think they are going to improve this year. Normally, Rutgers, look, we're talking about them laying 2 touchdowns here. I get it. We're not used to them laying 2 touchdowns. This is a point spread range that is out of their, out of anything that we've seen for Rutgers in recent years. But I really do think they have the potential here, especially with this being a home opener. Keep in mind, Rutgers is going to have some fans there in Piscataway. It was a resurgent year for them by their standards, compared to 2+ years ago where they were just a bottom feeder. And the fans didn't get to experience that last year because of COVID-19. Now they will, and now they get to experience that Rutgers is on a little bit of an upward trajectory here. I'm not saying they're an upper echelon Big Ten team yet because they're not, but they, to me, are good enough here to potentially not only win this game, but maybe run away and hide from a Temple team that, in my opinion, they're fighting with Navy, they're fighting with South Florida in terms of the bottom of the AAC coming into 2021. So I did lay the points with Rutgers. I got a 13.5 on it. Even at 14, I would still take a look toward the Rutgers side. I think it's going to be a rough season opener, and I think the excitement level for Rutgers football for the first time in a few years is probably about as high as it's been. So I think Rutgers gets the job done here, and they can pull away late. I just think it's going to be a rough year for Rod Gary, a coach I don't like. Temple, new quarterback, bad defense, definitely some issues in my mind with Temple coming into this year. If I'm betting this game, I'm laying the points. Conor Mac, what are your thoughts here? First thoughts, Temple versus Rutgers.
Yeah, man, you nailed it. You're like, sometimes, Ian, you just give it all there, my man. You give it all.
What else is new?
Yeah, so, Russo's gone, like you talked about. Rod Carey, they lost 6 games like year, 5 of them by double digits. I'm not high on this Temple team. They were bad last year. New quarterback. I love the Rutgers, and we talk about it, but I love them catching points. They were in games all last year. They played that thriller with Michigan, but now you're laying 2 touchdowns. I have a lean with the Scarlet Knights here. I like Schiano. Yeah, he's really turned it around. He's come back there after, they got rid of him. They really were down the dumps. I mean, Rutgers was at the bottom. They were like, where Temple is, or even worse, just a few years ago. So he's done a good job, and they bring back 20 starters. So, yeah, my lean is 2. I think they cover. I'm not jumping for joy and running to lay it, but I think you were smart by laying the 13.5. Now it's got to 14. We talk about the key numbers. I still think it's okay, but, yeah, I lean with Rutgers here, laying the points.
Yeah, will I be laying points with Rutgers on a regular basis this year? No.
Well, yeah, they won't be laying points.
But
either.
At the same point in time, this is a spot I'm willing to do it because I think it's just going to be a long, hard, difficult road for Temple. I think Rutgers really brings their A game here, playing at home, and I think there's finally some enthusiasm. We can see the light at the end of a very dark tunnel for this program, which has been just basically in the shits, for years, and a really nice bounce back year last year. So to me, I think there's reason to expect Rutgers to be amped up as long as they play a clean game. I think they've really taken strides defensively. You'll see them be able to pull away and win by 2+ touchdowns. Grant, here's your chance. First time breaking down a game on this show. What do you think here, Temple Rutgers?
Well, I love it, fellas. Temple's just not very good, obviously. 1-6 last year. You said it. They're 107th in their returning production. So you have players coming back, but as I talked about at the start of the show, like you want that winning culture, or at least somewhat of a fighting culture. I think Rutgers has kind of come out of the grave in the last few years, right? As you guys were talking about. I can't remember who it was on their team. I believe it was an offensive lineman was in an interview. And I just like comments about how he was saying, we're not coming out here to compete anymore. We're coming out to win fucking games. And I loved hearing that from Rutgers. And I love seeing Rutgers as a -14 to start the season. I mean, that's just fun to watch. And it's fun to have a little more depth in the Big Ten. I think Connor said it. Yeah, they're not going to be laying points too much this season. But this is a squad I got circled that they could be covering quite a few games for quite a few gamblers this year. So I lean with Rutgers as well. I probably won't make a play on it. But yeah, Temple just struggles. Rutgers is at home. They got a lot of good energy. They have a lot of positive stuff going on in the locker room. I think they come out banging and cover that spread. I'm staying off though.
All right, so lean Rutgers, just but a pass here for Grant in this one. Yeah, they're going to be favored in their first 3 games. They're favored obviously here against Temple. They're going to be favored slightly, I think, at Syracuse next week, and then of course they'll be favored against Delaware. But once they get into the Big Ten play, they will be probably a dog in every single game. But nevertheless, this is a great chance to get some enthusiasm, get a nice little 3-0 start going. So it's going to be very interesting to see if Rutgers can get out to that fast start. I think they will. And they get the right opponent, too. I think it's just going to be Temple in for a really tough
They need 3-0
year
to have a bowl, I think, to win 3 in the Big Ten. So to get 6-6, they got to get those 3 first games, I think, for sure.
Yeah, no doubt. Got to win those 3 games to begin the year. No question. All right, let's move on. We've got Boise State and Central Florida. This is a great non-conference matchup. It'll be on ESPN on Thursday night. It is going to be a fun atmosphere, of course, especially at night. Those night games where UCF plays at home. Great atmosphere as they usher in the Gus Malzahn era. His first game as head coach of Central Florida here. We've got UCF 4.5, 5-point home favorites here. The total opening 71.5 down to 68.5. Pretty much across the board now in this one. Boise State, of course, we know there's a little bit of change with them coming into this year, and it'll be fascinating to see how that goes for them. They welcome in Andy. They welcome in Andy Avalos now as their new head coach, Oregon defensive coordinator. So interesting hire there. Boise State has been going back and forth with their quarterbacks coming into this game. Jack Sears and Hank Bachmeier, who both played last year at the quarterback spot for Boise State. They both got playing time last year for this Boise State team. I've been reading and looking to find out if they've named a specific starter, but they're taking this thing right down to the wire. You're going to see that, by the way. There's a lot of teams that on their depth charts, a lot of teams posting their initial season depth charts today. Especially, and you're going to see teams that are undecided at the quarterback spot that have QB1 as this guy or that guy. Boise State had it for Sears and Bachmeier. Florida State, they've got their quarterback 1 listed right now as both Jordan Travis and Mackenzie Milton. So again, keep an eye on this. That tells you that they're not really releasing that info just yet, or they haven't made up their mind just yet who the quarterback's going to be. But definitely something to keep an eye on in terms of who's going to be on the field for Boise in this game. When you look at their team, 10 starters back on offense, 10 starters back on defense. I don't deny that they are going to be able to, be a very solid offensive team. I think there are a little bit more concerns, though, for this team defensively. Defensive line in particular, they've got a good pass rush, but on the inside, they can be had a little bit. They're a little bit weaker there in terms of lack of experience. The linebacking core, they bring back a senior and a junior. Isaiah Graham Mobley's a really good senior linebacker for them. They bring him back for this Boise team, and that's going to be a good sign. But you look at the defense here when this Boise State team, again, the secondary, not a single returning starter. Linebacking core, a little iffy. And when you look at it, for sure, in terms of this defensive line, 2 returning starters there. The linebacking core solid. The secondary could be very good. But you're still looking at a defense that's transitioning a little bit because of a new coaching staff. I think offensively there's a lot to like. Very good O-line, good receiving core with Shakir and Thomas, and, of course, whether it's Bachmeier or Sears, they're two very capable quarterbacks. Both of them have a very good arm, good release of the football. So it's definitely something to keep in mind going into this game for Boise. On the flip side, you got UCF. And look, Gus Malzahn actually inherits a really good situation, I think, for the Central Florida team. I mean, he gets Dylan Gabriel as his quarterback, and we know how good he was last year for this UCF team. And there's not going to be that huge adjustment for UCF offensively. There's not. I mean, Gus Malzahn's going to come in. He's going to run up tempo, maybe not extreme tempo the way it was under Scott Frost and Josh Heupel, the last two head coaches there, but you're still going to see a little bit of an up-tempo spread offense. It's not going to be a learning curve for Gabriel. It's not going to be a learning curve for much of this UCF offense. And you talk about skill position weapons. They've got them with Bentavious Thompson, the senior running back. He's terrific. Great receiving core with Brandon Johnson, Jalen Robinson, Craig Myers. You look at the offensive line, it is intact. They've got every starter back, 4 of those starters being seniors. You love to see that for UCF. So it's a really good situation offensively coming into the year for Gus Malzahn in terms of what he inherits. Defensive side of the football for UCF, 14 starters back. The returning production for this team pretty solid overall when you look at their numbers there. It's the defense has always been the weak link, right? Last year it was, 2 years ago it was, especially last year. That was not a great UCF defense. I think they were a little bit undercoached as well. I thought the program actually went backward a little bit under Josh Heupel. So the defense is the greater question mark here for UCF going into this game. We'll see where this total ends up, guys, because when you look at UCF coming into the year, this defense, of course, last year had lots of injuries. So it's going to be interesting to see if now that they're fully healthy, they improve. And the one thing about Malzahn is we've seen him be able to coach up defense relatively well. Look, defense is what held Auburn in a lot of games last year. Remember? I mean, it wasn't the offense. Bo Nix was terrible. They couldn't move the ball. There was a lot of 3-and-outs, and it was the defense that held that team together a little bit last year. So Gus Malzahn, I think, can get this defense to improve. I think that's what people see in this total, by the way. Boise's defense is still solid. They expect UCF's defense to improve because it was bad under Heupel. They expect it to be better under Malzahn. I think that's what they see in pushing the total down in this game, because it opened 71.5. It's 68.5 now in this game. Don't have a real strong opinion on the total. I'm leery about betting totals over in the first game of the year when you're talking low 70s, high 60s. And we saw unders cash in every game on Saturday. The under cashed in every game except for San Jose State.
Yeah, except for it went over. Yeah, but I was surprised they gave up 2 touchdowns. Yeah, I know.
Yeah, and guess what? That's a shit luck you had in that game, because there was a pick six, there was a turnover in their own 20, sloppy. And it set I think it was San Jose State up for a short field. That game should have stayed under, and there were no points in the fourth quarter, and it barely got over the total. So you had a bad luck there, but unders early in the year could be there. Now there's one game on this card I love the over in, and we'll get to it. But just in general, just be careful, especially when you're talking 70s or 60s. Like, look at that Hawaii UCLA game. That was a high 60s total, and it really didn't even come close. It ended up 54 and went under the total. So I lean under. I like UCF, and I like UCF initially. I lean UCF now, 4.5, 5. We know the travel spot is difficult, right? Boise State to Central Florida, Orlando area is not easy travel. For the Broncos, I think UCF wants to make a statement in Malzahn's first game, but the betting markets are onto that. That's the problem here. I mean, it opened 3, it's up to 5. I don't want to take too much of the worst of the numbers. So the lean here for me is UCF, but right now it's not a game I bet and may not bet pre-kickoff. Conor Mac, what are your thoughts here? Boise State, UCF.
Yeah, I want to give a shout out to the chat. All our guys in here, Brian Vance, our guy Noli Knows, Harold Williams, John Roy, Robert Cherry. Pamper, whatever, play of the day. Hit me with it, Robert. Sorry. Big show. Hit the like, hit the share, go on Twitter, retweet our shit. Let's get more people in there. We appreciate it. Hit the thumbs up. Thanks for being here. We'll be here all year long on Monday at this time, so get used to it. Tell your friends, tell your anything, your neighbors, everybody. We're here every Monday. And this one, I don't love this game too much. You kind of ripped through it there. And I think both offenses are going to score. Whether that comes week 1, I don't know. But UCF, with Dillon coming back, I think he's one of the top quarterbacks. I think he had 32 TDs and 4 interceptions last year. That offense will hum. I think Boise State, I've just been a little bit down with Boise State, just kind of every year, the last few years. I just think they've slipped a little bit. And I think they'll be able to score in the Mountain West. Maybe not in this game, crazy. They should, because I think both defensive have holes here. But you talked about on their side of the ball, they got good receivers, not only as UCF, Boise State does. Bockheimer, it doesn't matter. Yeah, even if Sears comes in, I think he's pretty good. So yeah, this is a difficult one. I'd lean under in this game. And yeah, I don't really love the side either. It's the game I'm going to stay off. I think it's right there in this range, right under a touchdown. I like UCF. Their defense disappointed me at times, and I think Boise might be able to score on them. But you said it's a difficult spot. Week 1 in Orlando, like you talked about, not easy. But I think it'll be a good football game. I definitely want to watch it.
All right, yeah, definitely. I think it is. And the one thing I know about UCF is they are one of those teams that they're one of those teams that they seem in the spotlight games, especially at home. You really get good performances out of them. You didn't always get it. Like Cincinnati was kind of, their kryptonite in the AAC, but still a lot of these big time games, we saw them basically show up and play a pretty good game. We got Grant Arnold back. Good timing because it's his turn to break down this game. Grant, what do you think here, Boise and UCF? We got you.
So I apologize for the connection, guys. I'm going to talk on this game, and then I'm going to go try a new spot. But you guys hit the nail on the head. I think Boise State, the new head coach of Alos, I've been watching a lot of his interviews, and I like his energy, but at the same time, you can almost just tell he's nervous for this game, which, I mean, obviously is understandable. You're going into the bounce house, baby. In Central Florida, This place is going to be banging. It's going to be hot. It's going to be humid. I lived the bounce house, baby. It's going to be banging. And I lived down in Florida for a little bit, and it's tough. It'd be tough as hell to play football out there at this time of year. Anyway, Avalos, when he was at Oregon, one of his main recruiting areas was Hawaii. Dillon Gabriel grew up in Hawaii. And so Avalos knows everything about this kid, is what it sounded like in the interviews. So just a note for thought there. I'm in on UCF at -4. I got in on them a little bit earlier. It's moved up to 5.5. So I worry about Avalos knowing Dillon Gabriel that well. But like Connor said, I think this Dillon Gabriel kid's a stud. I love his energy. He's big. He's fast. He can throw the ball. He has experience. And you got a veteran coach in Gus Malzahn coming in that I would assume has a little bit of a chip on his shoulder, right? And he's coming into a good situation with a good quarterback with veterans. My one worry with UCF is their running back. They have 3 or 4 running backs right now that are kind of undecided who's number one. They got this kid coming in, Anthony Williams. He ran for 2,000 yards last year in high school. I don't know how many touches he's going to get, but from what I heard and what I've seen on Twitter, just from their feed, is there's a lot of hype around him in the locker room. So he's in at -4. I think this is going to be an awesome game to watch. What an awesome way to start the season in the bounce house, and a really freaking tough game for Boise State. So again, I'm in on UCF at -4. I think it's going to be an extremely hard game for Boise State. I think it'll be competitive though.
Yeah, it should be a good one. I'm looking forward to seeing Boise and UCF. And it's important too. Like we know with UCF, they're going to run up tempo, but every up tempo offense is different. It has its own characteristics. Like with, for instance, when Heupel was here, it was more of a 50-50 pass run up tempo offense. And it was extreme tempo. Like it was really snap the ball quickly. With Gus Malzahn, at least based on what we saw at Auburn. Yeah, what we saw at Auburn was a run-oriented up-tempo spread. He wants to run the football more than throw it. That's always the way he wanted to do it at Auburn. It was a run-oriented up-tempo spread. So if that's going to be the case, and it's not going to be the extreme tempo that we saw with UCF's offense under Heupel. So it's going to be above average, moderate tempo, but it's not going to be blazing fast tempo because Gus Malzahn, we've seen Auburn offense for years now. He runs up tempo offense, but it's not the extreme tempo where they're rushing to the line to snap the next play. They go quickly. They snap it at usually 14, 15 on the play clock, but they're not like 25, 30 on the play clock and then snap it like some teams. That's extreme tempo. It's a little less than that with Gus Malzahn during his tenure at Auburn, and it's run-oriented. So from a pace standpoint, I think you have to drop the pace ranking or rating of this offense under Malzahn compared to the offense that we saw for UCF under Heupel and then Frost as well. I think it's not going to be quite as fast, and they're going to run the football probably more than throw it. So that's going to change things a little bit. So, and I think the defense will improve. That's basically, I'm trying to put myself in the thought process of what people are seeing here betting the under, because this is a big move, 71.5 down to 68.5. And I think they see that. A team that should be better defensively, a team that's going to be still up tempo, but a little bit less, and a run heavier type of up tempo spread offense. So I think that's exactly the factors that are people saying, wow, 71.5 first game of the year. That's just a little bit too high when it comes to the total, but should be a really good game here. Looking forward to it. Let's move on to this one. A little bit of a group of 5 non-conference game here, but I'm excited about it. I've got a decent opinion actually on this game. East Carolina, Appalachian State. We've got App State 10.5 point favorites here. 57.5 is the total in this game. Appalachian State, the moment I heard this, the moment I saw this, I said, wow, I'm starting to get worried about App State just when I heard this, when I saw this, that Chase Bryce is going to be their starting quarterback. And right away, my thought was, all I saw was these nightmarish thoughts and images and things I saw last year of him at Duke, where basically he is an absolutely horrendous quarterback with no pocket presence, no awareness, bad decision-making, hangs on to the football too long, took too many sacks last year at Duke. Now, look, I get it. Duke had issues. Duke didn't have a good offensive line last year. That's got to be to blame for what ailed Chase Bryce last year. But at no point did I say, you know what, that's a guy I really want to hitch my wagon to at the quarterback spot. He got bounced out of Clemson. He really couldn't make it there in terms of starting quarterback. Before that, you had a situation, or after that, he goes to Duke. And really, with David Cutcliffe, think about that. One of the great quarterback coaches. I know that's when Grant disappears, we got to go like that. We'll hope to get Grant back in time, but nevertheless, East.
Thanks.
I was just going to, basically, Bryce is with David Cutcliffe at Duke. That's the point I was at. David Cutcliffe was at Duke with Chase Bryce, and we know how good David Cutcliffe's worked with quarterbacks over the years. That's always been one of the strengths. He's going to get something in terms of production and ability and performance out of most quarterbacks that he's going to work with. He couldn't get anything out of Chase Bryce. He couldn't get any. David Cutcliffe, who's done a great job working with quarterbacks in the past. How in the hell are we going to trust him now going to the third program he's been at now with App State? An App State program that, look, are they still an upper echelon Sun Belt team?
I think they're slipping a little.
Yeah, I
think
think
talked
so,
about
but,
Boise just a little bit. I mean, I still think they're good, but I think they're falling a little.
I agree with you. I'm 100% in that camp. I don't think Sean Clark, the head coach, after years with Scott Satterfield, and then Drinkwitz was here briefly after that as the head coach, I don't see App State right now in a spot where this program is at a level that it was at with Drinkwitz and in the Scott Satterfield era. I just don't see it. I see a decline. It's not like they're dropping off the map or anything, or they're falling off a cliff, the App State program, but they are not quite as good as they've been. And you see last year, they only lost 3 games, but against the spread, they had a really rough year. They were only 3-9 against the spread in their games last year. And pretty much they lost to the majority of their losses were to teams that were, really good teams and good offenses. Coastal Carolina, Louisiana, Lafayette, and Marshall. Yeah, they took advantage and pasted a few teams as well, but they were some really bad defenses going into last year. 9 starters back on the offensive side of the football this year for App State. There's some people that say they're improved, and the defense does look good. I will say that. Let's give the defense credit for App State. They've got a lot of returning experience back there. The defense is really, really strong on paper. I don't doubt that very much. Lots of returning talent. The defensive front looks very solid. All 5 starters back. That's a good thing. 3 linebackers, all seniors back. The secondary, though, is the one area of weakness for this defense for App State. They don't have as much returning there on the defensive side of the football there. So it's going to be interesting, but obviously they've got a lot to look forward to defensively. Most of their starters back. The pass defense is still a little bit shaky to me. And when you look at East Carolina, it's a team that can take advantage of that because I think passing is really their strength. Mike Houston now in his 3rd year with this program, and Holton Ahlers back at the quarterback spot for East Carolina, a guy that looked up and down last year. But what I like about East Carolina coming into this year, Connor, is they really finished the season strong. They put a nice little finishing touch on the season. That win against SMU late in the year last year, that was impressive. I mean, SMU was a solid bunch last year with Buechele. That was a solid football team. And they not only beat SMU, they handed it to them in that game. I think they use that as a springboard into this year. I like the offense. The defense has to improve. A team that's going to run the football a lot, App State, they should run the football a lot because I don't trust their quarterback. Yeah. So you worry a little about East Carolina run defense, which was their, they were pretty soft in terms of their run defense last year. That does concern me a little going into this game, but they say they've shored that up. They expect it to be better. Mike Houston was saying that he expects this to be the best defense he's had since he's been here at East Carolina. It's not like that's asking a lot because there's no doubt they've had their share of issues on the defensive side of the football. But, he's a good coach. He's a guy that when I say he likes this defense, I'm going to buy into him. When the coach I don't really like or think he recruits all that well, don't think he adjusts all that well, when he says he expects the defense to be better, usually I'm a little bit more skeptical of that. When Mike Houston says it, I'm willing to believe he's right because when you look at it, they bring back their key defense. They get the nose tackle, the defensive tackle. The nose tackle is a freshman, but they are really, really high on him, Elijah Morris. They say they really think he's going to help that run defense. They've got the really good defensive tackle as well for this East Carolina group that they're at with Rick Abreu. It's going to be interesting to see. They got all 3 linebackers back, their own secondary. This is what I like against Chase Bryce. Chase Bryce can be an interception machine. East Carolina's got a junior, 2 juniors, and a senior in their starting secondary. The cornerbacks are juniors. They're experienced. The starting safety, the strong safety, is DJ Ford, a senior. I like that. I like secondary that can lock up receivers down the field and be able to maybe make Chase Bryce make some mistakes, which he is more than capable of doing that, which we saw all last year at Duke. I like East Carolina here. The money's come in on them a bit. It's 11, 10.5 in most spots right now. I think we've got the road underdog. I'm going with on the pirate ship in this one. ECU plus the points. I just don't think App State is that Sun Belt, that face of the Sun Belt anymore. That clear cut, better than everybody else in the conference anymore. Those days are over. They're still a good team. I just don't think they're a great team, and I think they're still being priced right now in the betting markets like a great team at this point in time. So I like East Carolina here, and with that offense, which I think is going to be able to score, put up points, I think this will be the offense's best season that they've had here at East Carolina. There's a lot to like. I love C.J. Johnson and Tyler Snead, the receivers. They've got a very, very solid offensive line. The left tackle. And 4 of their 5 starters on the O-line are back. There's a lot to like for this offense. They can put up points. So even if App State's up by doubles at one point in this game, you've got a backdoor wide open for a very capable quarterback and a very capable East Carolina offense. So I think we get a relatively competitive game here, and I'm going to take the double-digit points with East Carolina in this one against App State. Conor Mac, what are your thoughts here? ECU, App State.
Yeah, I think this could be a good game. So it's a neutral site game in Charlotte, North Carolina. One thing I've had problems with East Carolina is early on in the year, and especially the last few years, they seem to get, as the year goes on, they played better than they did last year. Oh, they won a few games, they covered. I love it. They're bringing back 20 starters, 10 on offense, 10 on defense. The defensive side needs to get better, and hopefully it will with bringing those guys back because that was their own problem. They just give up a shit ton of points. But who is this Nikolai in the chat? Holden Ahlers is a smooth criminal. He can chuck it a little bit. And like you said, he's got weapons. I think East Carolina will be able to score in this one. The value's starting to drip a little bit here down to 10.5. I think as long as you have over 10.5, it's okay because it's already fallen. On an App State, I think you talked about it. They're bringing back 17 starters, 14 of them those super seniors because of the COVID. So they're bringing back a ton of those guys, some on defense, some on the offensive line. The big key, I think, they'll run it. They'll be fine that way. You talked about it, is Bryce for Thomas. Thomas was such a rock as their QB for so long. And now you bring in a guy who was not very good at Duke, and he's got to throw it here. I still think they're a good team. But yeah, I wouldn't go laying points with them here in week 1. It's a difficult game. I'm just a little higher on East Carolina a little bit. Maybe it's because of what I saw at the end of last year, but I don't want to be fooled in to, just kind of jumping on them. They'll be right back. But I love they bring back all these guys, and they played well at the end of the year, and maybe that can get them going. So yeah, I think there's value on the dog here as well.
But just a little leery based on the slow starts they've had in years past. Now, granted, the slow starts, Connor, were year 1 under London, and it was a dumpster fire program when he took over. Scotty Montgomery left this program in the shitter when he got fired.
Yeah, it was
a disaster under him, and he had to basically resurrect it. And they're definitely making strides under Mike. This was a good hire from the beginning. I said I like this hire. He was good at FCS as a head coach, and he's rebuilding this thing down there in Greenville. There's no doubt about that, and I think they're going to I think this is the year maybe they can avoid those slow starts. But I understand what you're saying. They have had slow starts, and maybe you don't want to be the who here. Conor Mac won't get fooled again. Bum, 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 bum. He won't get fooled again here on the East Carolina.
Too long, too many years.
Yeah, exactly.
As you know.
Yeah, no doubt. I understand playing it cautious. Grant is with us. Again, connection issues, but it's okay. It's just this week while he's on the road. Grant, welcome back. What do you think here, East Carolina and App State?
Thanks, fellas. Yeah, this will be a rare occurrence for me. I'm usually not on the road, so again, I apologize. Chase Bryce, man, you said it, Ian. Not excited at all to watch him play football. That's the best way I can describe Chase Bryce. I think he was 10 TDs and 15 interceptions last year at Duke. He started his career at Clemson. Obviously, that wasn't going to work out. So one of those guys that I read about and like all the Duke press and things like that say he's a big body, like he's got potential, things like this. Well, I haven't seen shit. None of us have seen any of that. So easy to get lured into some of those things if you don't go to multiple resources when you're doing your research. And then whoever said that in the chat about Ehlers, started as a true freshman, his 3rd year playing. Lefty, dual threat, kind of dangerous for the Pirates. I'm staying away from this game just because I just don't know much about East Carolina. As you guys have kind of talked about, I get a little intrigued, but I think Connor said it. Anything under 10.5, dude, that's a risky week 1 bet with an App State team that, like you guys said, they have a good winning culture, but it's kind of been dipping over the last few years. And you got Chase Bryce behind center. That doesn't give me any confidence. Cam Peoples at running back, though, for App State. I think he had 317 yards in the Myrtle Beach bowl game last year. So huge season for that kid in his NFL draft stock. If East Carolina can stop the run or slow the run down, I think they have a hell of a shot to cover and maybe even a backdoor, but I'm staying away. Just a little cautious for me in this one.
They should hand it off a lot. I wouldn't leave it up to Bryce.
Right?
I'd minimal. Yeah, I wouldn't let him throw it too much either.
And he's a kid he's has college experience, right? So now he has a good running back. I mean, there are some positives to think about it, but yeah, you got to run that ball down their throat. And if ECU can stop them, then we might have a closer game than many people think.
Yeah, definitely. It's a situation here where he's got a better situation. The table's set better for him here at App State than it was with Duke. The O-line is better. Duke's offensive line was bad. We do have to figure that in, factor that in, I should say. But he does have a better O-line here. He has a running game he can rely on. But still, I mean, you talk about just a nightmare or a worry. Your heart's in your throat if you're backing a team with Chase Bryce at quarterback every time he drops back to throw the football. That's the way it always was last year with Duke. So it's going to be interesting if maybe being with a different program produces better results. Let's go to the next game here. We got South Florida, NC State. NC State now 18-point home favorites, 59 the total in this game. The line's gone up slightly. I'm surprised this line didn't go up more. I'm on the point. I'm laying the points here with the Wolfpack. This is definitely a play that stuck out to me very early when I saw the opening week 1 lines. And NC State to me could be the best team they've had under Dave Doran. I don't think that is going to be a stretch by at all to say that. This team is loaded on both sides of the football. I certainly think this could be the best defense that Dave Doran's had since he's been the head coach of this NC State program. There's definitely a lot to like when you look at that side of the ball, loaded defensively, 14 starters back. You got to love that. If you're this NC State team coming into the year, lots of experience on that side of the football, and that's certainly going to help you out going into 2021. I think when you look at the ACC this year, there's definitely a pecking order that looks Clemson, Miami, North Carolina. I would go Clemson, North Carolina, Miami, probably in that order on paper. And then you could make a case for who is going to be the 4th and 5th best team in the conference behind those 3. I think you could go Boston College. I think you could go Virginia Tech. And I think you could go with this NC State team as maybe that 4th best team in the conference as well. I mean, Devin Leary is back at the quarterback spot, a guy that got injured through last year, dual threat quarterback, great arm, extremely athletic. He's got Zonovan Knight, a terrific running back, great receiving core, 2 of them seniors with Emeka Emezi, Thayer Thomas, Devin Carter, a good senior tight end as well. All 5 starters back on the O-line. The offense is loaded for NC State. That's the good news. The defense, like I mentioned, was the weaker unit of the team last year. And you're going to see, I think, a lot of improvement with them on the defensive side of the football this year. I mean, when you look at that defensive line, we'll start there. They got both of their edge rushers back this year, and both of them are seniors. That's a good sign. The nose tackle's a little younger, so could they be run on at times? Yeah, but I think it'll still be better, and they've got more depth at a bunch of different positions. The linebacking core has a couple of juniors and seniors in it. The secondary should be solid as well. Definitely a lot to like, because you look at NC State last year, it was still some issues defensively. When they played North Carolina, when they played Miami, when they played Virginia Tech, they got ripped apart defensively. I think they're going to be better accustomed to stop slowing other teams down this year. South Florida on the other side, Jeff Scott, the head coach. This is definitely a program that is a long way away from getting to where they want to be. They're jettisoning out one quarterback. Cade Fortin has been confirmed as the starting quarterback for South Florida. He's a guy that's been around the block, and the fact, it's kind of taken him this long to get a look as the starting quarterback may not be necessarily a good thing for UCF coming into this year. So, there are question marks for me littering this football team. You talk about defense that couldn't get any stops. That was South Florida last year. I mean, this defense was just abominably bad last year for Jeff Scott. And I don't know if this is the matchup on the road, in Raleigh, North Carolina against NC State, where you can expect to get night for a defense that was just absolutely dreadful last year. And whatever improvements they might make this year, I think it's definitely going to take time for that defense to shore things up, because last year things were absolutely not pretty whatsoever for South Florida on the defensive side of the football. And that's another concern that I have for them coming into this season as well. I know they've got some returning talent back, but when you're talking about a defense that gave up 39, that gave up to Temple, think about that. They gave up 39 to Temple last year. Temple didn't even have a good offense for most of last year, and injuries at quarterback. Tulsa put up 42 against them. Houston put 56, and then Central Florida put 58 on the board against them. I mean, just absolutely atrocious on the defensive side of the football. Over under 1.5 stops on defense in this game for South Florida, and I wouldn't be betting it over. They're going to really be in tough here to get off the field against this NC State offense, in my opinion. And defensively, if NC State is improved defensively, as I think they will, then against a very limited South Florida offense with a quarterback that's I'm not sold on in terms of Cade Fortin. When you look at his numbers, he's been around, he's a junior, and yet he's just getting his first crack. And the fact that, Jordan McLeod was the quarterback, and he was awful last year, but do we really expect a great deal of improvement for Cade 410 at the quarterback spot? I'm not so sure. I just think defensively, it's just a world of hurt for South Florida. It's a rebuild job that is still very much in the beginning stage for Jeff Scott, and I think it's going to show up in this game. So I indeed laid the points here, minus 18 with NC State. Conor Mac, what's your thoughts here with USF and NC State?
Yeah, I don't love laying points like this with an NC State team, but I'm higher on this NC State team. Leary will be back. I mean, he was out for a little bit last year at quarterback. They got solid running back in Knight. Amenzi is a good wideout. Really good, big, tall wideout. And their defense is better, like you talked about. The Bulls are bad. I mean, they're just horrible. 1-8, and all they beat was Citadel, I think, last year for their only win. I mean, that was 27-6. They better beat Citadel. Shit. I mean, come on. But you talked about it. The QB, he has no time, haven't started at much. That last year, they had 30 sacks that offensive line gave up. He's just going to get mauled. And their defense was horrible, really, really bad. They'll give up a ton of points. This is one where I look at Wolfpack first half, jump on them. You get a 9.5. In some places it's 10. Maybe a USF team total under. Look at those. I kind of, did that week 1 with some of these shittier teams like South Florida. So look for that. But yeah, I don't love doing it, like laying points. We talked about Rutgers earlier, but I think in this spot, I mean, the Bulls are just on another level way down here, and the Wolfpack are going up just way better than them.
Yeah, it sure feels that way. Oh, by the way, you mentioned the team total under for South Florida. We've talked about this on the baseball show a lot. Take the element of maybe the point spread out of it. If you just like NC State to score and you don't want to fret minus 18, you could go NC State team total over. You know, and just, as long as they get their points, you don't have to worry about them winning by 18 or more points. As long as they score and you've handicapped this game to see that their offense should move the ball and produce against South Florida's Civ defense, then you could go NC State team total over instead of maybe the minus 18. So that's the other option, because I've done that in baseball before. When I don't like the starting pitcher for a team, but I think their offense is going to smash the opposing team, I'll bet the team total over instead. So that's definitely an option in this game. Grant, what do you think here of this one, South Florida, NC State?
Was in a tough spot. 1-8 last year. They beat the Citadel. Obviously, you got to beat the Citadel, like Conor said. It was rotating chairs last year for Jeff Scott. I mean, I don't know how many quarterbacks they played, but there was a few. The one that transferred. The one interesting fact I found on Cade Fronton, he actually played against freshman when he was in North Carolina. I think it was in 2018. He threw for 276 yards and one interception. So everything about USF, South Florida, I hate. Like Fronton, but the one thing I'm thinking about in this game, just a mental note, is that he has played against NC State. They lost in that game. I mean, he played decent, 276 pass yards, threw for a touchdown as a true freshman. Again, I'm not pumping his time. Let's think about, he's played against this team before. And Dylan Leary breaking his fibula, obviously a tough injury to come back from. So I think about NC State, and I agree with you guys. Just 8-4 last year. Coach Dorr done a good job the last few years, but I worry about quarterbacks coming back from injury, and especially a fibula. I think Dylan Leary is a good football player, and he'll be able to do basically whatever he wants against USF in this game. Team. It's something that I'm trying to get better at as a bettor, is these big lines. I think it's something a lot of, and I took it from Ian about his baseball tip on betting the team total over. I've kind of doing that in baseball. That's very intriguing to me. Also, NC State first half. I just think they're a much better coach, better quarterback. I think 18 is a little heavy, but again, I've been kind of nervous the numbers in the past, just because they're so big, and I'm trying to get better at it. So I'm going to jump on team of NC State. What is it laying? What is it sitting at right now? Do you have it up?
NC State team total is 38.5, and the NC State first half is -10 right now.
Okay. Yeah. -10 first half. I think they're going to jump out. I think Dylan Leary has a lot of energy, right? He hasn't played in a year. You got the hands back. And this thing that I've heard is he's healthy and he's moving well and he's got high talent. So, yeah, mark me down for -10 NC State on that first half. I like that play. And you guys nailed it. I mean, you guys said it. UCF is one of those really good football teams.
Yeah, no doubt. So good analysis there. I think we all think it could be a difficult opener here for South Florida in this one. We move on now to Bowling Green and Tennessee. The Volunteers were 30.5-point home favorites. And just this morning, I think it was like 33 or something, like early this morning. And now I'm seeing 34, 35. It's even crossed through the key number of 35 in some spots. And the total's been hammered up as well. This total was 56.5. It's now 60.5, 61 across the board. I fully agree with, I don't know if I agree with the Tennessee move. I understand Bowling Green obviously was hideous last year in the MAC. I get that, but I'm not really rushing it with Tennessee with a little bit of an unknown about what to expect. I don't think they're going to have a great season, but could they still be good enough just to line up and outman and just overpower Bowling Green, a bottom feeder MAC team? They certainly could. They could just by accident find their way to winning this game by 5 touchdowns or more in this one. But overall for the year, I don't like the trajectory of Tennessee, to be quite honest with you. I'm not betting against. I'm looking at them as a bet against team. I'm just not picking this game to bet against them because of just the physical advantages they're going to have in the trenches in this game on both sides of the football. They're going to have it in spades over this Bowling Green team. Let's start with the hire, which I don't love the hire. Raise your hand if you think Central Florida got better under Josh Heupel. I don't think they did, personally. I don't think they did. I actually think they took a small step backward. I think when Frost was there, now you can say Frost, obviously Nebraska's been disappointing, but when Scott Frost was at Central Florida, that team was playing on New Year's Day. They were in the New Year's Six bowl games. They were in big time, games those years under Frost. Josh Heupel fell short of that at Central Florida, and their defense just was awful under him. And you could even say their offense, took a lot of penalties. I thought they were undisciplined at times under Heupel. Turnovers were an issue at times. I thought they kind of disappointed UCF. They were still a very good team, but they didn't have those great, amazing teams and years that they had with Frost. They didn't have those with Heupel. The jury's out to me on this hire. Now, Jeremy Pruitt, it didn't go well, but the jury's out for me on the hire. You've got an extreme scheme and shift change, an extreme scheme change on the offensive side of the football here. You're talking about a run-heavy, slow-paced, methodical offense under Jeremy Pruitt, and now you're going into a pro-style offense as well. And now you're going to an up-tempo, spread, extreme tempo offense that Josh Heupel is bringing to Tennessee, because that's exactly what he coached at UCF. That's how they played. And when he was the offensive coordinator with Missouri before that, that's also how they played. So it's going to be a huge offensive philosophy change here for Tennessee. They just named the Michigan transfer, by the way, Joe Milton, as their quarterback this morning. Kind of surprising because they got Hendon Hooker, the transfer from Virginia Tech, on this team, and yet he's not going to be the quarterback. It's going to be Joe Milton here for this Tennessee team. Regardless, you're talking about playing a Bowling Green team that on the defensive side of the football last year, it was just absolutely disastrous for them. So even though I've got my concerns, and even though this is a shift change, a scheme change, a system change offensively for Tennessee, going into this game, I think they're probably still good to put up, 40 points, 45 even. I really think they could hang that on this Bowling Green team in my mind and really do serious damage here. But then you look at the defensive side of the football, not a very good defensive team last year, Tennessee. This year, when you look at defense, the defensive line only has 2 starters back. The linebacking core has 1 starter back. The secondary actually could be decent, but it was a secondary that couldn't cover down the field last year. They got raided on the transfer portal, Tennessee, last year, which is also a concern that I've got. A lot of whatever best players they had last year, and that's not saying much, but a lot of the best players they had last year, they left the program prior to this year. So I still worry about that defense. The question is, can Bowling Green score? I think they can. The Bowling Green head coach is praising their team for better offense in camp. Now, obviously, it's got to show in the results. It's got to show on the field in an actual regular season game. But he's talking the talk that he expects a better offense here from Matt McDonald and company, who, of course, will return as the quarterback. Can't be much worse for Bowling Green. The one thing last year that they had issues with was their offense sputtered, and they couldn't necessarily get stops either. But with Matt McDonald at the quarterback spot, back for a second year, I think he'll be more comfortable. And look, I've just got a lot of issues with Tennessee's defense right now coming into the year, and I think they're going to have their share of struggles. What I do like, too, about the offense for Bowling Green is their left side of their O-line has 2 seniors. That's going to help. It's going to help against the pass rush. It's going to help to give McDonald opportunities to throw the football. He does have a strong arm. You got to see this offense improve for a team that last year, it was hit or miss for them. But down the stretch, I think this offense got better for Bowling Green last year a little bit when you look at how they played. And the question is, can they keep that going this year? Let's not forget Kent State, the team that they played last year, which plays extreme tempo, the same style of offense that Tennessee's going to play. And in that game, Bowling Green scored 24 points. It was the most points they scored all year, and they gave up 62, and the game went over the total. So that's kind of what I see here. My thought process early in the year was bet against Tennessee early in the year. I'm not going to do it here. But boy, I'm going to be tempted to put a little plus 35.5 in my pocket if it gets there. If it gets beyond 35, I'm going to be awfully tempted to bet something. It'll be small, but something on Bowling Green, to be honest with you. But the bet I really like in this game is the total. It's already been hammered up, 59-61. I agree. I think this game goes over the total. I think you get 45 at least from Tennessee. You get at least 17, 21 points out of Bowling Green, which I think is very, very possible considering this is a Tennessee defense that wasn't very good last year, that's got a lot of question marks on that side of the ball. I think Bowling Green can do enough offensively to get over this total. So for me, it's Bowling Green, Tennessee over. And now that it's up to 35, I am not endorsing Tennessee at this number. And there'll be a team that beyond this week, I'll be looking for spots to bet against them. Conor Mac, what do you think here? Bowling Green, Tennessee.
Yeah, this is a spot. I mean, I'm not going to lay it with Tennessee here, but I think they score against Bowling Green. So I'd maybe look at a Tennessee team total over here in this game. Don't worry about laying it. Take the over here. Bowling Green was that bad. They gave up 310 yards on the ground. I mean, just run it. Tennessee, I know they're going to the spread, the whole new offense with Heupel. Just run it down these guys' throats. They'll be able to pass it. I'm not high on Tennessee. I was on their win total under. We talked about it in our preview show, but they should romp here. I know Matt McDonald looked better towards the end of the year. Man, he was so bad early. That team was horrible offensively. I know, scoring 24 against Kent State's a little different. Can they get a couple here? Junk touchdowns? Maybe. I just don't love this game at all. Like, the only play I'd be on is a Tennessee team total over in this one. Maybe first half, Tennessee, they get out to a big lead, take them to cover here first half. But they should take care of business on a Bowling Green team that can't stop nobody.
This, by the way, Tennessee, you talk about teams that are going to undergo the biggest offensive pace shift from one year to the next. That's Tennessee. They were as methodical and plodding and slow-paced as it got last year, and they're going to be the complete opposite this year. They're going to be snap the football as quickly as possible, hurry to the line, and run as many plays as you can on offense. And
just
the one thing I like is Joe Milton started. Let's keep in mind the quarterback for Tennessee played some games, started at Michigan for a few games. So he's got experience starting at the quarterback spot. And I think that's going to help, even though it's a very massive system change and overhaul on offense. This is a guy that's got the experience maybe to handle it better than a freshman or a sophomore making his first ever start might be able to handle it. So keep that in mind for sure. Grant, what are your thoughts here on Bowling Green, Tennessee?
Can you guys hear?
Yeah, it's cutting out a little bit, just a little bit. Try bouncing in and out, see if it changes. That's all right. Come back out or go out, come back in, and we'll see if it's any better. it is what it is. That's what you get sometimes with, good old hotel when you're on the road. It's not difficult. We'll move on. We'll get Grant's thoughts on that game when he gets back with us. Ohio State, Minnesota. Next game is Ohio State, 14-point road favorite, 64.5 the total. This game's on Fox. Big Ten opener for both teams. Right now, I'm leaning Minnesota here a little bit. I don't know if I love it enough to bet it. It is if it's 14, I'm interested, but I don't know. Ohio State. This is definitely, first time ever starting quarterback, C.J. Stroud. Now, we know they're going to be loaded at the receiving core, no doubt. Chris Olave, Garrett Wilson, as good a tandem in college football as it gets in terms of throwing the football and from the receiving position. But there are question marks defensively, coming into the year, at least a little bit for Ohio State. The offensive line, there's going to be some changes there. There's definitely, and of course, they got to break in a new starting quarterback. Under Ryan Day. Now, Ryan Day's recruited extremely well, and that's what we've got to realize quickly with Ohio State. They're just one of those programs that they're not reload anymore. They're rebuild, they're not rebuild, they're reload, and we're seeing that. Number 2 ranked recruiting rating in 2021 for this team, but the production numbers, again, 125 in the country production. So that's not great. 129 in experience. So, they lose a lot from last year and have to break in a new starting quarterback in C.J. Stroud, who, by the way, has big shoes to fill considering the way Justin Fields played for Ohio State. So definitely something to keep in mind as well for this Ohio State team. And only 5 starters back on defense. And if you're going to lay 14 on the road, that's always a little bit of a concern because you could have the back door open. Now, for Minnesota, they lose Rashad Bateman, a great receiver, but they have Tanner Morgan, their quarterback, on the field again. It's appealing to me that in Minnesota here as home underdogs, in the home opener with Ohio State still with enough question marks. But there is still a talent gap. There is. I mean, Minnesota kind of had a disappointing year last year. They've got to really show still that they can hang in there both sides of the ball. I thought defensively was disappointing from them last year because I thought they had a good defensive football team when they had that great season 2 years ago. It really wasn't the same last year. We'll see if they can improve again on defense. That's the one thing that I'm holding back on in terms of pulling the trigger here. But will not be laying 14 with Ohio State. Put it that way. If I'm betting this game and if I'm getting involved in it, and I'm not sure I will, but if I do, I would lean Minnesota here. The Gophers getting the 2 touchdowns here in this game. Conor Mac, what do you think here with Ohio State and Minnesota?
Yeah, this one's interesting to me. A few teams like Alabama and Ohio State bringing, new quarterbacks in, being with Fields. I think they're fine. Like you said, they just reload. I am not going to lay it with Ohio. It's not here in week 1. I got to see it. And that's the biggest key is the defense. That's why Minnesota could be in this game as double-digit dogs. That defense was horrible, especially the pass defense. They were able to stop the run, get some sacks, but that secondary was horrible. Can Morgan make some plays? Maybe. Minnesota was a huge disappointment for me early on last year. They really hit the shits and weren't very good. I know they dealt with a lot of COVID, which a lot of teams did. That kind of messed them up. They played better later on in the year. Yeah, this is one I want to watch. But I want to see Ohio State, the new QB. They are loaded though on offense. They just running backs, receivers, tight end. They're good there. So there should be points. Can Minnesota score on Ohio State? Maybe. Maybe Ohio State's a little better defensively. I don't know. I'm definitely going to watch this one. But if I had a free bet, I'd probably be on the dog here, the home dog.
Yeah, exactly. Minnesota or pass for me. With all the question marks for Ohio State, not that there aren't for Minnesota. They have a couple issues as well. That's going to be a concern. But, it's not like they're a perfect team. But I would only look to the home dog here. There's enough questions for Ohio State. And, look, you're not getting any bargains with them. They just went to the national championship last year. They're already power rated extremely high. You're not going to get bargains with them. So I'm not rushing to lay 14 here with them.
And they cover a lot. They're really good. Day's a great coach that covers a shit ton. Even though he got backdoored, some big ones last year. Indiana played him well, those ones. But those were teams that could pass it on him, and they just got into big shootouts and were able. But 14 is tight. I don't know. So, yeah, I'm off this one, but I'd only be on the dog.
Yeah, my number's at 13. with Ohio State. So that's where I had it. So that there's just was tinge of value with Minnesota. So that's why it's still not enough probably for me to get involved, but I lean to Minnesota here. We've got Grant Arnold back, hopefully. Again, apologies for the connection issues here. But Grant, if you can hear us here, Bowling Green, Tennessee, Ohio State, Minnesota, you can talk about both of those games.
Yeah, I'm back here, fellas. Yeah, Bowling Green. I'll talk Bowling Green, Tennessee first. I mean, Bowling Green got every single game season. They lost by an average of 32.8 points per game. Just not good. Not a good year. And they're coming into a hell of a fucking spot coming into Tennessee. But like you guys said, I'm not very high on really gotten me excited since in sports betting. And even just as a fan, Tennessee just doesn't get me excited. With the new coach, with a quarterback that was just announced within the last 7 days, I believe. I'm out the window to bet Tennessee minus or Bowling Green with the points. I'm not as brave as Ian on that one. I just can't. I can't find a team that lost by 32 points every single game last year. But that being said, I do see a little value. Bowling Green the points. I'm out though. I'm out on this one. The next one, Ohio State and Mini. PJ Fleck. I like PJ, man. I like guys with energy. I like guys with emotion. I like the row the boat thing. It can get a little corny at times.
That's for sure.
I think it's really hurt Minnesota last year, the COVID stuff, right? Like if guy that you need banging crowd, you need the music blasting, you need energy, you need hype, and they didn't have any of that last year. That being said, we got Ohio State and the CJ Stroud kid. He won the MVP at the Elite 11. So obviously high talent. Everything I've heard from him in the media, I think Leinart talked about him saying this kid's legit. He's got all the tools. He's a little bit more of a pocket passer than Fields was. And in my opinion, he has two of the top 5 best receivers in the country. And I don't think that's a stretch by any means. Avale is a first-team All-American preseason, and Wilson's a second-team All-American preseason. So Ohio State offensively, you guys talked about a little bit. When they get in trouble is when teams are allowed to pass on them. And I honestly think he's a pretty good college quarterback, and I think he's going to respond well this year. So I look at this game, and I can hang there early, but I'm on Ohio State at minus 14. I'm scared as fuck to bet it, but I'm a believer to be an absolute savage. And I think he's got the 2 best receivers in the country in that mix, and they're going to throw that ball on Minnesota. I see a tight game, conference game to start the season, which I hate. Weird. I don't like it. You don't get warmed up and get a few games in, but I see Minnesota hang. Sure's got the crowd back. I'm sure Minnesota's going to come with a fuckload of energy and passion, but in the Ohio State, and I'm a big believer in this CJ Stroud kid.
Yeah, I mean, there's going to be potentially an initial, it's time to get accustomed to things for CJ Stroud, but is he no doubt probably a terrific player or going to be a terrific player? I'm sure, because that's just what they do at Ohio State. Again, they reload, they don't rebuild. They're probably going to be fine at the quarterback spot with him. It's just a question of, is he ready? First game of the year, a little bit of a rejigged offensive line. And a defense that last year, again, they won in spite of the defense. The defense was hit or miss last year for Ohio State. Remember, Indiana scored against them. We know there were teams that really, even Rutgers, when that game, they gave up points to Rutgers last year. So that's going to be the question mark. But I lean Minnesota here still. Ohio State does have a great track record under Ryan Day of covering numbers, especially as bigger chalk. They've been able to find ways to cover numbers in this point spread range. But I think this year there's enough vulnerability. I mean, if you're playing, let's say the roles are reversed and Ohio State has got Bowling Green at home like Tennessee does on Thursday night, then Ohio State could maybe just roll. And it's a great situation for them to put Stroud in there at home against a bottom feeder MAC team. But now you're asking them, first start, with still an offensive line that's got some new faces, go on the road, play a very good, I think will be an improved Minnesota team this year. That's going to be an interesting ask, for Stroud and for the Buckeyes. So we'll see if he's capable of handling that going into Friday. So that's definitely something to watch out for. All right, that is the Thursday games. We'll pivot to the 4 Friday games next. Hit the like button. 87 live viewers. We appreciate it. Hit the like button. Hit the subscribe button. And tell your friends. This is going to be the show that's going to be on Mondays, 1 p.m. Eastern, 10 a.m. Pacific throughout the college football season. And next week and beyond, Grant will have a much better connection in audio and video. Trust me. It's just one of those weeks with him traveling. We're doing the best we can, but he'll be fine next week and beyond with that. Let's go to Friday here, guys. North Kakalaki. The Tar Heels taking on the Virginia Tech Hokies. We've got North Carolina 5.5-point road favorites here, 64 the total. I'd lay the points before I take them. Virginia Tech, there are people that think they could be the 4th best team in the conference. I'm not one of those people. I think the clock is ticking on Justin Fuente as far as I'm concerned. He's got to show me that this team can improve and take another step. I don't think his coaching's been anything terrific here with this program. Have they gotten better under him? I would say not exactly so far in his tenure. And they're going to have to show me what they're capable of here this year in terms of improvement. North Carolina, we know what they've got. A terrific defense. Most of the returning production for this team is there. They are absolutely outstanding, really, both sides of the football this year. The defense should be terrific. And for ACC standards, it really should be one of the better defenses in the country. As far as their offense, they bring back Sam Howell, a surefire Heisman Trophy candidate, in my opinion, at the quarterback spot. I think we're going to see more success from him this year, probably be even more, be even better than he was last year, to be honest with you. Now, again, they've got to replace some running backs. They drafted, or they sent a couple of really good running backs to the NFL last year. We will have to wait and see. Basically how the running back core replenishes itself. But I'm telling you right now, the offensive line looks very strong for North Carolina. The receiving core, there's definitely weapons, good ones for him to throw the football. I think they're going to have a good amount of success and both sides of the football. And I think there's more question marks with Virginia Tech coming into this year when you look at it under Fuente. They do have a lot of returning starters back, a lot of production that's back. But you're going to end up going with a guy that's been bounced around a little bit, Braxton Burmeister, for this program. He is a senior, but he's never been consistent, in my mind, as a starting quarterback. He only completed 57% completions last year as a quarterback. That's not a great completion rate. His decision making's a little shaky. As a great running back, Raheem Blackshear is going to be an outstanding running back. So definitely a good sign with having him back, because I think Burmeister's one of those quarterbacks. He needs a run game to help him out. He'll have that. The O-line does look solid when you look at it. They've got 3 seniors on that group, so they should be able to move the football relatively solidly here. Question is, what are you going to get from them defensively? This is a team that when you look at their stats last year in terms of defense, it was nothing outstanding by any stretch of the imagination for the Hokies. When you look at the points that they allowed to some teams, 47 to Pitt, then Pitt was just a plodding offensive team. Liberty puts 38 against them. North Carolina last year, 56-45 for North Carolina winning against Virginia Tech, won by 11. I think that offense for UNC should really do damage here against Virginia Tech. And I don't think Virginia Tech's going to put up the points this year like they did last year against North Carolina, because I actually think their quarterback situation might be worse. I'm not really sold on what we're going to get from Braxton Burmeister at the quarterback spot. So I understand that there's people that like Virginia Tech. That's why this line is held steady, 5.5. But I'm not one of those people that's as high on Virginia Tech as others. I'm probably going to end up betting North Carolina here. I'm waiting to see where this line goes. Maybe it drops to 4.5. I get another little bit of value here. But I just think there's enough of a difference here with these two teams. I've got North Carolina a good couple paces ahead of Virginia Tech coming into the year. Anything less than a touchdown, at least I'm interested laying the points. Even on the road here, it's not easy to start a conference game on the road here, but I just haven't seen progression in Virginia Tech's program under Fuente. I think this could be the best North Carolina team yet under Mac Brown. And I think North Carolina can not only win this game, but win enough by enough of a margin to cover this number. Conor Mac, what are your thoughts here? Good Friday night ACC tilt here.
Yeah, North Carolina. I mean, with Hal, their offense, I think, will be able to do whatever they want. And they replenished. They got running backs, receivers there. This defense to me was soft last year, and I think that could be their problem here. They lost some, to Florida State and Virginia. Those sloppy losses. I got to see that defense more to start out. And they played well, but I mean, there's close games when they played the last few times at Virginia Tech. And this game won't have a crowd of 500 people or whatever it did last year. North Carolina, it'll be packed. It should be rocking. Man, I wanted more than the touchdown for Va Tech here. I know Fuente, he hasn't been great. I still think they're a 6-6 team. And Burmeister, I don't know what we're gonna get. I just think a home game. I lean Virginia Tech. I just wanted the touchdown here. But I think North Carolina will be good. And I think it'll light up. Howell's really good. But that defense, I still have question marks there. This is a game I definitely got to be watching if I'm not going to be betting it for sure.
Yeah, I think North Carolina is going to be in the ACC championship game. I think they come out of that side of the division because the Miami game, the big one, they have the game at home. It's in North Carolina, so that could be what decides that one. And look, North Carolina's defense, you talk about questions maybe a little bit with them. What about the Miami defense? That defense wasn't any good last year, and they're going to now Manny Diaz is saying, you know what? I'm calling the plays this year. I'm going to try to do everything in my power to make that defense better. We'll see if it works, but it's not like their defense, Miami, was really good last year. So that's why I think in that matchup, head-to-head, North Carolina-Miami, you can end up seeing North Carolina prevailing. Grant, what do you think with UNC and Va Tech?
Yeah, you guys did a great job on this one. I think Sam Howell, like you guys said, he's a stud. He's played great at North Carolina. How big of a stud is he, I think, is kind of the question going into the season. Is he as elite as we all think he is? I kind of do. I really do. I believe he's an elite quarterback in college. Obviously, to come into Virginia Tech, Connor said it, one of my favorite college football arenas or stadiums. The place is going to be absolutely rocking. There's been some turnover, as you guys mentioned. The skill positions at North Carolina, they've lost a little bit. And their defense, I agree with Connor. They were soft. That's a good way to put North Carolina. Tony Grimes is back, and Keyshawn Silver, both 5-star recruits, didn't have a great year last year. North Carolina, and Silver, a defensive lineman. Like I said, not a lot of turnover in the coaching staff. You got Brown, you got both offensive and defensive coordinators back. You have one of the best quarterbacks in college football coming back. You got to start extremely tough. And Braxton Burmeister, he was just named. I just found this out this morning. He was just named All Freak list. I guess the coach was saying he's got like veins in his abs. He's an absolute savage of a human being. And he's the fastest guy on Virginia Tech. He's the fastest player at that school. I kind of see him as one of those guys that maybe shouldn't be playing quarterback. He's that big of an athletic freak. So he's an explosive player. So their wide receivers back from last year. So I look at this game and I'm leaning both ways the way you guys are talking about this, but I got in on Virginia Tech at +5.5, and I'm extremely nervous about it just because I would have liked another 2 points there to get to that 6.5 or 7, because it's just a tough. I think North Carolina is a better team. They have a better quarterback. They have a better coach, but they're coming into a tough place to play, and I think this Burmeister kid will show off his speed and athleticism and keep him in this game. I think the crowd is going to be a big factor and will really keep Virginia Tech in it. But damn, it's going to be a tough one to cover as how put up some points against an average Virginia Tech defense.
All right, next up, we've got Old Dominion and Wake Forest. We've got Wake Forest 31-point home favorites here, 64 the total. And whoa, if you're reading up on Old Dominion, Old Dom, over the offseason. It's about as rough shape as you can ask for. How about 1-11 they were last year, and the only win was against Norfolk State. It was basically an FCS team. That's how bad things were last year for this Old Dominion program. They got obliterated essentially in every game. They bring in a new head coach, Ricky Ronnie, comes over as the new head coach first year, assistant at Penn State the last 6 years. So brand new scheme on both sides of the football, brand new coaching staff, new offensive coordinator, new defensive coordinator, new head coach. Just an absolute rebuild year in my mind for Old Dominion. They should be the worst team in Conference USA this year. This should be the last place team probably in the conference. We'll see how they fare. But again, DJ Mack is going to be the starting quarterback here for Old Dominion. Transfer out of UCF. And we know how good they've been offensively. So maybe there's some hope for him in time. But problem is you've got skill position talent, depth is weak. The O-line looks really weak coming into the year. You have one starter back on the offensive line for Old Dominion coming into the year. That's not good. Actually, two. But the left side is completely rebuilt with, they got a sophomore starting in the left guard. I mean, it's just a really, really weak offensive line for Old Dominion coming into this year. That's the problem on the defensive side of the football. Could be even rougher for them on that side of it. You look at what they bring back there. Not a single defensive line starter back. It's all new faces on the defensive line. They have one starting linebacker that's a senior, not a lot of experience outside of that. Their secondary is actually halfway decent, but you talk about in the trenches, and that is often where you see the difference with, not a group of five school facing a power five school like this. They could get absolutely mauled, steamrolled in the trenches here by Wake Forest in this game. The one hesitation with laying this many with Wake Forest is their receiving core is a little bit banged up coming into this year. That's the concern right now. So definitely to me, this is a game where I'm a little bit uncomfortable with laying this many points, but I can't make a case for Old Dominion. So if I were to get involved in this game, I would maybe look just the -19 on the first half with Wake Forest. Because look, that's where in the early part of this game, that could be where, just it's a culture shock, right? Brand new head coach, brand new coaching staff, new offensive coordinator and defensive coordinator, new systems to implement, brand new starting quarterback. Not a lot on the trenches. The O-line's shaky. The defensive line's got nobody coming back. The defense was shredded apart last year. And Wake Forest plays an up-tempo offense that if you don't stop them, you could be down 21-28-0 in a blink against a team like this. And they bring back, of course, Sam Hartman, multi-year starting quarterback here at Wake Forest. So I'm concerned. Yeah, it seems like he's been there exactly, Connor, for that long. So this could get ugly early, but so for that reason, I'd rather have Wake earlier in the game than the -31 for the full game. They're one of those teams I don't know if I would trust them to see the game out in the fourth quarter with a big lead. So this one, I haven't bet it yet, but I've definitely got a strong lean. Wake Forest first half, -19. I think it's reasonable that they could be up 3 touchdowns here by halftime. Grant Arnold is still having connection issues. I think we're going to have to wait to get him back next week. That's what he said. So we apologize for that, but he'll be back. Great analysis from him, the games we did talk about with Grant, and great insight. And we're looking forward to having him back every Monday moving forward. So, but again, problems with the connection. So it is what it is. That's what happens when you're on the road, is you can't always rely on the Wi-Fi to be strong when you're away from home. There's no doubt. But Conor Mac, we'll continue on here. What do you think of this game here? Are you ready to lay points with Wake?
Not really, but Old Dominion is pretty bad. That's why it's 31. I mean, this is a Wake team that I don't think is very good this year, that probably wins 4 or 5 games, but they should whip Old Dominion here. You talked about it. They have nothing coming back. Offense, defense. I think they win maybe next week to Hampton, and that's it. I don't know. Maybe they beat FIU. I don't know if they can get another win. They just don't have anything coming back. And I'm not really high on Wake. Hartman, 10-year quarterback. Seems like he's been there forever, for the last 4 years or so. At times, he sparks and he throws it well. At other times, that O-line, he gets ran around and throws interceptions. But they should dominate here. First half, a good look. We talk about with these blowouts, and these bad teams, look for them first half, look at their team total over, and maybe look at an Old Dominion team total under. Wake's not going to stop a lot of people in the SEC, but Old Dominion, they could hold them down here.
Yeah, Dave Clawson is raving about the defense, but he says there's going to be a better defense this year. Well, here's their chance to show it for this Wake Forest team, because that's been their issue, right? For Dave Clawson in this group is that defensive side of the football has been lagging behind the offense, not only a little bit, but quite a bit in years past, going back to, when they had Kendall Hinton as their quarterback and some of these other guys. So that's always been the area of the team that's been shaky. But he says he likes this defense. He thinks this could be the best one he's had here. And by the way, they should be. I mean, that they've got a lot of returning talent back on the defensive side of the football this year. The numbers should improve. When you look at their depth chart on defense and for Wake Forest coming into this year, when you look at the defensive line, you've got your starting nose tackle, your starting defensive tackle, both back. They're both seniors. The defensive end, Ja'Cory Johns, is back. You got 2 senior starting linebackers returning. In the secondary, 3 of your 4 starters are back, and all 3 of those guys are juniors or seniors, actually. So that's a good – actually, there's 1 sophomore, but 2 of them juniors and seniors. That's good. So I agree with his sentiment that Wake Forest should be better defensively. They might still have a tough time, when they play, some of the ACC offenses that are pretty good. But this team, Old Dominion at home, rebuilding from the ground up right now, this should be a game where that defense can settle in, have a really good first game of the year. So this kind of looks like Fresno UConn Part 2 to me, where just Fresno buries them early, like Fresno buried UConn early. Maybe Wake can bury Old Dominion early in this game as well. Next up, we've got Duke and Charlotte. Duke on the road here, 6.5-point home favorites. There is a couple 7s still out there as well, 60.5 the total. I think we see points in this game. I've certainly got the over circled in this game, 60.5. Duke's got to be better offensively just because Chase Bryce isn't there anymore. Chase Bryce can't keep making David Cutcliffe look bad anymore because he's no longer there. Now, the question is going to be, how much confidence do we have in Gunnar Holmberg, who's now going to take over as the starting quarterback this season for the Duke Blue Devils? That remains the question. But look, I'm not going to say, wow, David Cutcliffe's lost his touch now with, tutoring up, mentoring quarterbacks because of last year and the disaster it was under Chase Bryce. First of all, the O-line stunk, and I think Chase Bryce was even just as much someone to blame for what happened with that team offensively last year. I think there's going to be opportunity for Holmberg. And what's good about Holmberg, Chase Bryce isn't very mobile. Let's be honest. He's just not. You're going to get that run threat back at the quarterback spot. And Cutcliffe usually, that's the preferred style of quarterback that he's had good success with, in the past year with this program. That run threat, that dual threat quarterback. And Gunnar Holmberg should be a lot more apt to run with the football when plays break down than Chase Bryce was. He's got a good arm. They say he's very athletic, and I think you're going to see that here. They've got a good running back, senior returning, and Mateo Durant. That's something that you can hang your hat on here as well for Duke coming into the year. Jake Bobo, senior, a wide receiver, returning as well. Senior tight end as well. I mean, there's some skill position weapons here for Holmberg, if he can be a good quarterback for Duke. So I think they're going to be able to put up some points here. They certainly put up points last year when they played Charlotte in that head-to-head game. 53 spot they put up on the Charlotte 49ers, 53-19. That game ended up going over the total, 72 points. I like the over here. I lean to Charlotte a little bit because believe it or not, because I'm just not ready to lay 6.5 with Duke. And I like Chris Reynolds. This is a guy that is under the radar. Unless you really study college football, you pay attention to Conference USA week in and week out. You're not going to know a lot about Chris Reynolds, the quarterback for Charlotte, but I think he's a really good quarterback. And I think he's now that he's a senior, I think he's going to have his best year yet. This offense I thought was pretty good last year for the Charlotte 49ers. When you look at it, defense was hit or miss, but I thought offensively, this was a solid football team last year. Will Healy's a very, very good offensive-minded head coach. I think he's done a nice job as the head coach, and I think he's done a nice job with this program, to be honest with you. There's been, modest improvement, with Charlotte the last couple of years. 2019, they had a really good year. Last year, only 2-4, but they had a lot of injuries. I think their offense is capable putting up points. I think you're going to see this team be good. You got to love some of the skill position talent that they have coming into the year. When you look at Jerome Ford, the running back, you look at Trey Tucker, Michael Young, or you look at you look at Victor Tucker. Got my Tuckers mixed up. Victor Tucker, great senior wide receiver here for Charlotte coming into the year. That guy was just a flat-out speedster and playmaker for the Charlotte 49ers last year. He has got Elder as well, Michaelis Elder in that receiving corps. Cameron Dollar, how do you not love that name? So you got 2 seniors and a junior at the wide receiver spot. Calvin Camp, senior at running back. You've got a senior tight end in Ryan Carrier. You've got definitely skill position weapons. The offensive line, the left and the right tackle are solidified. The interior, so they may have a tough time running the football because there's a new starting center, new starting right guard and left guard, but the tackles positions are solidified. Both the starting left and right tackle are returning this year for Charlotte. On the defensive side of the football, when you look at what they've got there, I think you're going to see some improvement there as well from them. But still, when you're playing outside the conference, you're going to improve inside your conference, I think, defensively. But asking, outside of the conference, a Power 5 team to really make that big leap forward defensively might be difficult. And I've got Duke primed to at least be a better offensive team this year with Holmberg and some of the weapons he has and a solid offensive line. And I think a less mistake-prone quarterback he might be than Chase Bryce. But Duke is still going to have a tough time defensively as well. I think when you look at Duke, there's still some issues there. They just were awful defensively last year. And that makes it tricky for me to want to lay 6.5, 7 with them on the road against, I think, what could be a good 49er offensive football team this year. So I lean Charlotte. I think I'll have some kind of smaller bet on Charlotte at plus the points. I think they are very live in this game, but I like the total even more. 60.5 is the total. I think it goes over that number. Conor Mac, what are your thoughts here with Duke taking on Charlotte?
Yeah, I think we'll see anybody different than Bryce at quarterback if Duke can be better. I don't know. They could score at times. That offense, though, against better teams was bad. I think they could score maybe against Charlotte. Charlotte has a bad defense. There's their problem. You talked about it. I think Charlotte can score. So maybe you're onto something. They got to get over 60 week 1. I mean, I'm not going to bet it. The only side I'd be on is Charlotte here. I like 6.5, but I really like 7 or 7.5. But that'd be my only look here. I think Charlotte, like you talked about, I think their offense is a lot better than their defense right now. And I just got to see more in Duke. Last year was such a disappointment. Yeah, it just seems like they're sliding. So, yeah, I'd be on the 49ers here in Charlotte at home dog.
All right, Connor, lean into Charlotte as the home dog here as well. All right, our final game now of this Friday college football, of this weekday, I should say, college football card, Michigan State and Northwestern. Another situation here where we have a Big Ten conference game to open up the season for both of these teams. We've got a bunch of these. We had Illinois, Nebraska on Saturday. We're going to have Ohio State, Minnesota on Thursday. Michigan State, Northwestern on Friday. You're going to have Penn State, Wisconsin, on Saturday. So there's just a bunch of these where you've got conference matchups here for these Big Ten teams right off the hop. Northwestern, 3-point home favorites in Evanston. They opened 6.5 down to 3.45 the total. I think this is twofold. One, people expect Michigan State to be better. They have to be. They can't be worse, right? Last year was a disaster for the Spartans. Mel Tucker hired as the head coach. He didn't have any spring practices with his team. They were right behind the 8 ball already because he couldn't put anything new in right away. They only had their lead up to the year, and it just fell apart for them. And to be honest with you, the offense was just dreadful. I can't even words can't express enough how bad Michigan State was offensively last year. It was just a nightmare to see them at least try to move the football. They had major problems in terms of having any kind of successful offense last year. And now we'll have to see if it's improved going into year 2 under Mel Tucker. I think it has the potential to be better just because Rocky Lombardi isn't there to really just be just brutal at the quarterback spot. Watching him last year was painful. At the quarterback spot for this Michigan State team. Just absolutely inept at times. And then Lewerke before that. I mean, they've had some. This ain't the Kirk Cousins and some of the guys, Cook, yeah, Connor Cook, right? Back in the day. This ain't the Connor Cook, Kirk Cousins, Michigan State offenses. I mean, Lewerke wasn't anything special. I thought Lombardi last year was terrible for this team. The question now, bringing in someone that we all should be very familiar with, Temple transfer Anthony Russo at the quarterback spot. Is that going to stimulate this off? It has to. Like, I'm not saying Russo was great at Temple. He wasn't. He was solid. He was serviceable. He managed. Yeah. He was decent there. I think that's probably the words I would use to describe how effective he was. Even that is going to be better than what they had last year at quarterback for Michigan State. Skill positions look solid. The offensive line, all 5 starters back, and all 5 of them are seniors. You got to like that if you're Michigan State coming into the year, no question. So there's things to like on the offensive side of the football. Anthony Russo, good arm, mobile enough, can run with it when he has to. 5 starters on the O-line, and they're all seniors coming back to this football team. I mean, you absolutely have to like that. 3 starting wide receivers back, along with their starting tight ends. So there's reason for this offense to be improved. I don't know how much improved, but there's no doubt to me they're going to be better. They have to be. Lombardi was dreadful. He had more interceptions than touchdowns and a 54% completion rate last year, Lombardi. Now, Anthony Russo, I'm not telling you he's one of the best quarterbacks in the country, but he's going to be a lot better than that, than Lombardi was this year or last year for Michigan State. The question is going to be on defense here for Michigan State because that's a unit that certainly had their share of growing pains last year. They gave up 52 to Ohio State. They gave up 49 to Iowa, 38 in a loss to Rutgers to begin the year. Penn State moved the ball at will and put 39 against them in the final game last year. So to see that defense just fall apart, and that's the one thing Michigan State, at least in the past, especially in Mark D'Antonio's era as the head coach, the defense was solid. And that was just not the case for the Spartans last year. So we'll see how much better it is going into this year. The defensive line is this question mark. They only have 1 starter back, a lot of new faces there. Linebacking core, no return. You look at it. They do have a good linebacking core, 3 seniors, 2 juniors, and the secondary, actually 3 of the 4 starters back. So it looks like the secondary, the linebacking core, solid. Northwestern does like to run the football and would prefer to run the football. So the fact that the weak link of Michigan State's defense experience and production-wise, in terms of returning production, is the defensive line, that does concern me a little bit going into this game. Of course, for Northwestern coming into the year, the reason why Conor Mac, that Michigan State has taken a lot of money here in this game is because of the fact they lost a ton, Northwestern, from last year's team. There's no question. It's a little bit of a, we're retooling a little bit. Returning production numbers are not spectacular coming into the year for Northwestern. That's putting it mildly. When you look at this team, they are near the bottom in terms of returning production from what they lost last year. They did lose a ton, and that does concern you, that first game of the year. I think that explains why the money's flowing in here on Michigan State. But yeah, 126 in the country in terms of returning production, 4 returning starters on the entire team coming into the year. So, or on both sides of the ball, 4 on offense, 4 on defense. That's not much, to be honest with you. That definitely worries you a lot going into the upcoming season for Northwestern. Peyton Ramsey was the quarterback. You've got to replace that as well. That's a concern as well coming into the year. We'll see what Ryan Holinsky can do, the South Carolina transfer. He's going to be the new starting quarterback here for Northwestern this year. The skill position talent, again, you'll have your starting running back is returning, Andrew Clare, so that's good. But only 1 receiver back. The offensive line, you got a sophomore left tackle, but you have your starting left guard and your starting center, who's a senior back, and your starting right guard, who's a senior. So there's things to like there a little bit in terms of the defense here for the offense, I should say, for Northwestern. Defensive side of the football, defensive line, left defensive end, right defensive end, defensive tackle, all back. The nose tackle is new, and Michigan State's probably going to look to run the football a lot. So that could be a little bit of a challenge. The secondary has got a lot of new faces. Same with the linebacking core. So, it's Northwestern had one of the best defenses in the Big Ten last year. To me, probably going to take a step back in that regard here. This is a total where it's sitting at 45. I have to think Michigan State's going to, and look, you're not going to get pace. Michigan State doesn't play fast. They play pretty slow, and Northwestern is as slow as it gets. They're a run-heavy team, pro-style offense. They're going to, milk the clock, time-consuming drives, but it's built into that total, 45. I think it could slip over that total this game because you look at Michigan State, defensive line still a little bit concerning. Northwestern likes to run the football. They do have a senior running back returning. I think the run game could work here for Northwestern, take pressure off Ryan Helinski in his first start. And on the flip side, Northwestern's defense kind of starting over. A lot of new faces, and especially along the front, where in Michigan State, I think to take pressure off Russo, they want to run the football. So the bottom line is, even though you're going to get a lot of running on both sides, I think both teams can have success running the football in this game. And we're talking about a total that's only in the mid-40s. You get 24-23 or 27-23, you get yourself over the total. And I think you could get there in this game. As far as the side goes, look, if you haven't bet Michigan State yet, I get why they took money. But it was 6.5. It was above 3 most of the summer, and now it's 3. I can't bet now Michigan State with the number it's at. I get the reasons for it, but now at 3, I'm off that side. I was leaning that way initially, but I was never in love with Michigan State enough to even bet them when they were 6.5, 6, 5.5 all summer. I'm sure as hell not going to bet them at 3, but I'm not ready to lay points with a Northwestern team that truly is, rebuilding a little bit. Now, there's some people that say Pat Fitzgerald's gotten this program to a point where he can sort of reload and not necessarily rebuild and fall off the map. But all I remember from Northwestern so far, Conor Mac, even though I love Fitzgerald, a lot of these times he's had those great teams that push for the Big Ten championship, get to a good bowl game, and then next year they have to retool a bit and they don't have a good year. That's been the pattern under Northwestern. So that's all we can go on. The pattern has been they fall off when they have to retool after a good year, and that's the case here. So there's some people that say they're going to be fine. They can reload more than they ever have before, even though it's Northwestern. It's not Alabama or Clemson or Ohio State, but I've got to see it still before I believe it. So yeah, I lean Michigan State, but 3, the value's been taken out. I'm not on the side. I might get there with the over though. 45 may not be asking a lot for, and Michigan State can only be better offensively this year in my mind with Anthony Russo at quarterback. What do you think here, Conor Mac? Big Ten matchup, Michigan State, Northwestern.
Yeah, Northwestern lost a ton. They were such a good dog team. I love Fitzgerald. We talked about it on the show earlier, our videos for the preseason. I think they could get better. The problem is Helinski. Obviously, you talked about the 126, bringing back all those players. Only 4 on offense, 4 on defense. And Helinski at QB, there could be trouble. Of course, they're going to run it anyways. That's why I'm pumping the brakes. This is game 1. Both defenses are a little suspect, but I see more of an old Michigan State, Northwestern kind of week 1 game. This could be ugly. This could maybe be 17-14. Russo is better than Lombardi. But Michigan State had a shit ton of holes. They were a bad football team that's got to get better defensively. They are better, like you said, on the offensive line. They always have a few running backs. I think they'll be able to run it. I see a slow game here, run it out. I lean under 45.5 here. And I wouldn't lay it with Northwestern. I just can't. Not with Helinski at quarterback. That I just never have liked that kid. But I think Northwestern could struggle early on, but I like Pat Fitzgerald. And this is where I want to catch him. Maybe they lose some games. I want to catch him, catching 2 touchdowns somewhere and play him because that's where I like him. And you talked about it. They've had really good years and kind of fallen back. But even that, I mean, I still think they could win 6 games, 5-6 games. But I wouldn't lay it. But you said the value's gone. If you could have got Michigan State 5 or 6 is a lot better. Or even 3 in the hook. Now you're at 3. So nothing really on the side. I lean Michigan State. I just take a money line. Screw the 3. I just take a money line, and I lean under 45.5 here.
Yeah, Michigan State is going to be better. I mean, we kind of called it last year. I remember we were doing college football shows on this channel last year, right around the beginning of the. We all loved Rutgers in that first game of the year last year against Michigan State. And sure enough, they won that, and they just embarrassed Michigan State. But we knew they were kind of not ready. Mel Tucker didn't have any practices with his new team, new coach, new systems, a weak offense. And we said they're going to have trouble. Big time, I think, early in the year. And that's exactly what happened. They struggled early in the year, but now he's had a full spring and August camp with this team. Lots of practices, a scrimmage in the spring. And obviously, to me, like I said, Anthony Russo, you can talk about how great he was at Temple or how he wasn't great. He will be better than Rocky frickin' Lombardi or even Lewerke were the last two quarterbacks Michigan State had. Did anybody like those two quarterbacks? Am I just imagining things? Because I thought those two guys were horrific at the quarterback spot. It's got to be better, at least, with Anthony Russo. And by the way, someone I know is excellent with college football totals. Excellent. And he beats totals every year. And he always sends me his numbers prior to each week. He's got this total at 48. So and he's really good with that. That's kind of why I'm thinking. I know why they're betting it under. I get it. They're going to both run the football. There's not going to be pace on either side of the football or either team offensively in this game. I get it why they're betting it under. But
but it can sleep over.
Defensively, both teams have
27-20. Yeah. Oh yeah, I agree. I think it could be right under over. I think the line's pretty spot on. 45.5, 46 right there. Yeah.
Northwestern lost the majority of that talent, that great talent from that upper echelon Big Ten defense last year. And it's not going to be easy to replace that. So that's why 45, I'm going to wait because this might even go down further because that's the first thought based on last year. Michigan State, Northwestern is going to be just like last year. And I remember this game last year when these two teams played, Conor Mac, and it was a butt-ugly game. And yet it still ended up 29-20 with 49 points in that game last year when they played. So, I'm definitely eyeing the over. We'll see how low this total goes, but I'm looking to fade that move at maybe the best number I can possibly get as of right now. All right, that is the Thursday and the Friday college football slate. We've gotten through every single game. This show will usually be around 2 hours, maybe a little less on most weeks. But before we wrap up the show, what we're always going to do, we won't give best bets because it's early in the week. These are just first opinions on the card. But what we will always do is throw out a couple of games from Saturday just to whet your appetite, games that stick out to me, at least early in the week. I'll throw just a couple at you. We got to save a lot of meat on the bone for Saturday morning when we do our premiere edition of 4th and Gold, 10 a.m. Eastern, 7 a.m. Pacific every Saturday. But there's a couple I'm liking right now for Saturday when I look at this card. I'll give you a couple. I'm liking right now West Virginia, Maryland over the total. It's already gone up from 54 to 57. I think the West Virginia offense under Neil Brown, an offensive-minded coach with Jarrett Dagey back, this could be the best offense they've had. I think he'll be better. But that defense that was so good last year loses a lot for West Virginia. And on the flip side with Maryland, I think Talia Tagovailoa and that offense going to move the ball and have success, put up points. But their defense still just isn't very good, Maryland. So I think you could see an over in that game, West Virginia and Maryland on Saturday. A couple others I'll throw out there. UTSA against Illinois. I'm not saying this because we've got our great folks from Pub Sports Radio that reside, the home base in San Antonio. Jose in the background. You can see him fist pumping behind the scenes right now. Me mentioning the Roadrunners. Meep. Mentioning the Roadrunners. I think they're a live dog at Illinois. People are going to say, wow, look at that Illinois, Brett Bielema era. Look at that start they had. Well, they lost the yardage battle. Okay, they lost the stats in that game. They were outgained by Nebraska in that game. The reason why they won is Nebraska shot every toe on both of their feet. That's what they did. Turnovers, penalties, just horrible execution, bad throws, and missed wide open receivers by Adrian Martinez. Illinois was solid, but Nebraska really lost that game just as much as Illinois won it. And UTSA is no freaking joke this year. They're loaded on both sides of the ball. Could be the best defense in a conference. Doesn't play much defense, Conference USA, which is good. If you can play some defense in this conference, you're going to be a good team. Look at Marshall the last few years. Look at some of those teams that did well in Conference USA. Frank Harris, the quarterback, dual threat, has gotten better. I think Traylor, the head coach, has done a great job. No trailer trash here in UTSA. Traylor's gotten the job done here with this program. Great year last year. So looking forward to that. UTSA plus the points for me is another one I'm definitely looking at. I think I'll stop there. There's others, tons of others I think I like. I think I like San Jose State a little bit at USC. The team that's played a game already, USC hasn't played a game. Sometimes the team that's played a game, has a little bit of an advantage. So it's interesting to see how that goes. I think that's a lot to be laying with against a sturdy San Jose State team. in that one. That game could go over the total too. San Jose State's offense is terrific. We saw it in their first game, and Keaton Slovis could be one of the best quarterbacks in the Pac-12 this year. So for USC, so I think you could see points there. I'll stop there. We'll be going forever if I keep going, but those are just some early week opinions that I like for Saturday's college football card right there. We will go through the entire Saturday card, 10 a.m. Eastern, 7 a.m. Pacific, Saturday morning, 4th and Gold. Ron Walsek, you spoiled the surprise. Yes.
Yeah, we'll have them on. One on or both.
Ragu and DJ Big Boss with us Saturday mornings moving forward. I think DJ Big Boss said maybe not every Saturday he'll be able to join us, but every Saturday that he can, absolutely. And Big Ragu's good to go. He's ready to rock every Saturday. And those guys, we've done college football shows with them, and we're excited to have them joining us Saturday mornings here on 4th and Gold right here on Pub Sports Radio. Conor Mac, floor is yours. Some early look-ahead spots that you're interested in right now for Saturday.
Yeah, let's get to that game you just talked about real quick. If you like San Jose State, take it now. This could fall under this 14 points. You know what I mean? It's already dropped. So if you like them, this could go under. This could hit 13.5. So if you like them, take them now, because the 14.5s are gone. There's 14s across the board. What was another one? I'm going to take Pitt. This is another, I think, first half blowout over UMass. Just take them. They cover there. Yeah, I think that one's an easy one. There's one other one I'm waiting here on this game. I'll give one more as well. Is a team that just blew out UConn. I don't know how good they are defensively, and Oregon will thrash them, but Fresno State will score, I think, on Oregon. It's 20.5. I'm waiting to go up. If I get a 21.5, I'm going to be all over Fresno. What was Oregon's problem last year? They're going to score. They have the athletic guys, but they couldn't stop anybody, and I think Fresno slings it around, and they're in that game. They cover that big 3 touchdown spread. So just wait, though. It's 20.5. I don't know if it's going to hit 3 touchdowns, but just wait on that one, because I don't think it's going down.
Yeah, Fresno and over makes sense to me in that game.
Yeah,
just in theory, I think you could see points. They like Anthony Brown. I mean, I didn't love him at Boston College, but Mario Cristobal's saying they think he's going to be fine running this offense. And the defense, the secondary, Conor Mac, it's the weak point of the Oregon defense this year. It's depleted back there, kind of starting from scratch, a lot of new faces, and they got to face this Fresno offensive passing game that we saw with Jake Haener last week can be very, very efficient, very, very explosive. And then make matters worse too, Connors, they got to play Ohio State as well here in September. And that team with a rebuilt secondary in Oregon. Oh, you only got to play one of the best receiving corps in college football in that game, Ohio State, with Olave and Wilson. So you talk about a baptism by fire for Mario Cristobal's rebuilt secondary coming into the new season for Oregon. They're going to get it from Fresno State and Ohio State in some of these early games that are on their schedule. So we're going to find out quickly what kind of or how quickly this pass defense can gel for Oregon, because they've got some big challenges with that secondary early in the year. That is going to wrap up our first edition of Hitting the Books right here on Pub Sports Radio. Great show. We appreciate everybody joining us. 90 live viewers. Hit the like button if you haven't already. Hit the subscribe button. Share the videos as well. We will be doing this show every Monday, 1 p.m. Eastern, 10 a.m. Pacific. It'll be your first football look of the week right here on this channel. And of course, next week we throw in the NFL into the mix as well. So looking forward to that. And next Monday, our regular Monday colleague here, Grant Arnold, he'll have his connection. He'll be back home in Colorado, he's in Arizona right now. He lives in Colorado. He'll be back there next Monday, and we'll have him on. Better connection. That'll be ironed out, and we'll have him back with us for the next edition of Hitting the Books right here on Pub Sports Radio. Great stuff. Thanks to everyone in the chat. I'll quickly run down everybody that joined us. Michael Robertson, Coco Bongo, Robert Cherry, Dennis Trusty, Ron Walzak, Harold Williams, Zach Wilson for MVP, Puzzler, Morgan Spooner, Johnny K, Adam Lastman, Boston Nick, Harold Williams, Jay Cash, Michael Robertson, and everybody else joining us, JR, Wyatt Chapman, Anthony Witherspoon, Real Deal Prime, Fat Wally, Yeah, Paulie in the Wally in the chat. Birdie, welcome in as well. Glad to see you joining us as well. Max on record and everybody else. Thank you for tuning in to the premiere of Hitting the Books right here on Pub Sports Radio. Connor and I are back next hour, by the way, with Ski Profit, 4 p.m. Eastern, 1 p.m. Pacific for the MLB closing time show, breaking down the Monday MLB card. Join us for that in about an hour from now. That's a wrap for Conor Mac. I'm Ian Cameron. Have a great Monday, and hope you enjoyed this premiere edition of Hitting the Books, and we will see you again next Monday on this show, 1 p.m. Eastern, 10 a.m. Pacific. Connor, Grant Arnold, and myself for another edition of Hitting the Books right here on Pub Sports Radio.